So the main objectives on Monday were to set a trial date, decide on Russell's ankle monitor, and make their cases about whether Russell's assets should be unfrozen so they can be used to pay his overdue attorney's bills and for his future representation. Now, one of the first interesting things to note about the hearing is who was there. Obviously, our Cup of Justice co-host Eric Bland was, and so was Mark Tinsley. Both Eric and Mark represent victims of Russell's alleged crimes. Also, there was attorney Sean Kent, who represents Buster Murdaugh in Buster's defamation case. Now, why was Sean there? Was it for Buster? Or is he possibly the mysterious additional counsel that we told you Russell said he planned to hire in a recent federal court filing? Sean didn't sit up at the table with Russell or his 3 attorneys, but when Creighton Waters, BCE himself, introduced the case to Judge Heath Taylor after they were all in chambers for 30 minutes, here's what he said.
We're obviously here on a status, and I know that Mr. Laffitte, of course, is present. He's represented by Mark Moore, Todd Rutherford, and Michael Parente. Maybe somebody else.
Maybe somebody else? Could it be Sean Kent, who appeared to walk into the courthouse with Russell and his legal team? I guess we'll find out. It's always so interesting to watch good old boys who don't pay their bills act nonchalant about possibly increasing the number of people on their expensive legal team that they're supposedly not paying. Okay, so Judge Taylor opened the hearing by telling the room that Rutherford had somewhere he needed to be, so they were going to handle the scheduling first. You heard that, right? He decided to start with scheduling because Todd Rutherford needed to be there for that part of the conversation, right? Which Creighton acknowledges.
Obviously, he's hired Mr. Rutherford, and there's obviously the legislative concerns of his legislative duties to deal with as we try to schedule this. At the time, the federal appeal was still pending, and so we kind of kicked the can down the road just a little bit. Ultimately, in November of 2023, Alex Murdaugh pled guilty to all of the financial crimes, including the ones related to the allegations against Mr. Laffitte. And then, as Your Honor's aware, just a couple of months ago, the Fourth Circuit flipped the federal conviction. So we're here to seek to get a trial date. There is a new order, as Your Honor's aware, that came out addressing the parameters of legislative immunity from being called to trial, given their legislative service. One of the provisions in there that the state points to, of course, is it says that any case that they're involved in or that there is retained in a case that's over 2 years old, there is no absolute protection. I know there may be some dispute about the effect of that particular language as to whether on its face that means any case that's 2 years old, which this certainly is, or whether or not it means that the lawyer legislator got involved at the point it was already 2 years old. But we certainly would assert that that order frees us up a little bit.
Legislative immunity. The law and subsequent Supreme Court orders that allow lawyer legislators to say that they can't appear in court during the legislative session. Remember when we told you last week about how Todd Rutherford just showed up in Russell's case one day? And how lawyer legislators, of which Todd is one of the most lawyery and legislative-y, profit from being tagged into cases where defendants who can afford such a perk can essentially pay to have their cases delayed into oblivion. It's a nice little business model that lawyer legislators have there for themselves.